Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I'm proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So this is a video I'm going to show you of this is the kind of way of how I look at things, and I have a large understanding of all of the context of what I'm dealing with, and it's so much. And so what happens is when I want to start trying to express a point, I link it to this. It's like, okay, well, I need to show them this, and then because of that, then I want to show them this. And what happens is with me is then I need to start pulling up the videos and showing things that I can show you actually show it to you. Instead of just saying it, I can actually show it to you. So I need to start so what happens usually is I'll start building up these videos in my head, and then I just kind of intimidate myself. I get overwhelmed. This happens with me all the time, and sometimes I'll even start building them, and I start building them, and then what happens is I build it too much, and then instead of doing that video, I get intimidated by it, and I just shut it all down, and I don't do those videos. And this happens all the time. So right now I'm trying to one of the points I'm trying to make is that Michael Jackson, you can actually say that Michael Jackson is actually the cause of the whole Motown being created. The whole creation of Motown actually came about the birth of Michael Jackson, which, you know, if I said to somebody who's like, oh, Motown was actually created because of Michael Jackson, if anybody who knows anything, you'd say, what are you talking about? Michael Jackson has nothing to do. Michael Jackson's over in Gary, Indiana with the Jacksons. What does he have to do with Motown? Has nothing to do with it. But with my story, like I say, is when you actually get into it, what you'll see is that that's what I'm saying. I hate holding this stuff inside, being that I'm the one that actually sees all this stuff and actually understands of what actually happened with Michael and what it actually did and how it developed Motown. Then the irony of how he was given to the Jacksons and then how they came back and then Diana Ross nurtured him and all this stuff, okay? But so one of the main points of what I'm trying to say is I know I can get people to see the truth if they look at the song Billie Jean. If they can just look at really what I'm showing them and understand I'm the one dealing with all the I'm showing real facts, the real stuff. And I would say that this one is the key because it goes back to everything. Everything actually revolves around Billie Jean. It's massive, the stuff that I can bring out. So this is one of the things I'm going to try and show with this video. I'm going to explain Billie Jean. I'm going to show you that because I have understandings of everything, I then can go out, I can show you the parts in the song that shows you right here. Look at, this is the part that shows you that I'm right. Then it shows you that none of the other ones that people, what they're talking about is completely wrong. Because one of the things right now, there's a page out there called Detail or The Detail. They do a lot of Michael Jackson topics. They had just done one on Billie Jean. And in there, they were talking about how this song, the inspiration for the song, and they were talking about different people talking about stories. So, like, one of the stories they had talked about was a woman, I think Quincy Jones had said a woman had sent Michael a gun type of thing, right, in the mail, saying that he was the father of the kid or he's killed, some weird stuff, right? So that was one of them. Then there's one where Michael talks about that his brothers, all the women that the girls that would come after the brothers, and they would call them the Billie Jeans and stuff like that, okay? And so that's like a couple of the versions, and there must be another one where there's a girl that like I said, there's a few of them, okay? There's people, they talk about these things. But now let's actually look at the song Billie Jean. I'm going to show you the one part right here that shows you that all of what those people are talking about, they can't be right. It's what I'm talking about. And I'm going to show you how that my story develops everything. I'm going to show you how it all develops, and it's all explainable right here. And the main part, so in the song Billie Jean, the main words here is what I want to point out is where he says, but you came and stood right by me, just a smell of sweet perfume. This happened much too soon. She called me to her room. Okay, so people, you think, oh, he's just trying to be clever, okay? But that's what people, they can always dismiss, okay? I'm actually explaining. So don't dismiss my actual explanation because you people have your ideas or whatever. Now, I'm actually going to explain the words. And I'm going to show you that these words can exist in the context of how any of those other people are explaining the song Billie Jean. So the first part, there's just a simple thing right there. She called me to her room. She called me to her room. So now if we're talking about a Billie Jean that was a letter, right? And the gun, okay, well, there's nothing there. There's no, so the other part is, see, just a smell of sweet perfume. So Michael actually smells the perfume, so that person is there. It's not an imaginary type of person. Michael's there with that person, and he can smell the perfume. And that woman then calls Michael to her room, and Michael states because of that situation, this happens much too soon. There's something there that happened much too soon. And what I'm saying is, I'm actually going to explain the song, not what any of you people think what Billie Jean is about. That has nothing to do. You people have no idea of what the song is about because you don't know who Michael Jackson is. So now when I come out and I'm actually explaining, this is what it actually is, and these are the words that, and I can show you how these words contradict anybody else's explanation because I actually know what's going on. And so I can contradict all of them, and I can show you the proof of how it contradicts all of them. I'm going to show you everything. So this video is going to take a few more minutes because I'm out to show you this is what it takes for me to actually explain things in detail. Because this is like how it goes through in my head and stuff. This is how I talk things out in my head and I try and explain it, but I actually have to show it to you, and it takes time. And that's why, like I said, I get intimidated by trying to do this kind of stuff. So when he's saying, okay, so right here, what I'm showing you is just the smell of sweet perfume, and she called me to her room. Those situations right there contradicts all of the actual stories of what people talk about the story of Billie Jean. Okay, so what I'm saying is, if this story is actually written as an actual experience, okay, if there is an actual experience that these words are based on, it's not based on what he's talking about. This is a completely different topic. What he's saying here does not relate to that because she called me to her room. That doesn't have anything to do with the brothers having sex. This is Michael speaking firsthand. This is this is him talking about a person who did this to him. This has nothing to do with some lady sending him a gun in the mail. This has nothing to do with that. But now let's get into the explanation of where I talk about what is the song actually about, who's it about, what's he talking about. Now, this is in Michael Jackson's Moonwalk book, and I stress over and over and over that this passage in Michael Jackson's Moonwalk book, basically, to me, he confesses. There's a massive confession because there's no possible way that any of this takes place without my story explaining it, because it just does not take place. So we're going to go, I'm just going to start reading it because you can see right here. So I'm reading, this is from the Moonwalk book. You should be able to see there. You can see it's all there. So I'm just going to read the passages here and I'll explain. So he says, when we finally moved to Southern California, we actually lived with Diana and stayed with her for more than a year on a part-time basis. So you got to understand, Diana Ross now, she's a big star. By the time the Jacksons are signed to Motown, Motown is established as a massive record company, right? Massive. Motown is fully established, and Berry Gordy, he's probably starting to think about the movie stuff because it's just a couple years after that he does go into start to do the movie, starts to develop that, and they move. Well, that's probably part of why they're moving to California too. He moved the whole Motown business out there because he wanted to start developing the movie industry too, and that's part of why they moved to Los Angeles, because that's why the business is all there. So this is a key part of what you got to understand about business, okay? And if you know any part of Berry Gordy's actual history with the old bands in Motown, what you'll find out is that the bands that were signed to Motown, those people would not have their own houses in Detroit. What would happen is Berry Gordy would buy a house through the company Motown. Then what he would do is he would rent those houses back to his people. He would charge them. He would charge them then rent in a house that he was then being bought for Motown. This is like how businesses works. That's how he does things. So if the Jacksons then, when the Jacksons moved to California, right, to go to Motown, Berry Gordy instantly would use that as an opportunity to buy a property, because now he can buy a property, have the Jacksons living there, and charge them rent. And so the Jacksons now are buying a house for Motown for Berry Gordy, because that's the way he does business. That's the way he always did business. But for some reason, the Jacksons he doesn't do that with them. He doesn't do the business deal that he always did. And with that opportunity, you're going to tell me he passed up on that opportunity? There's no way. And not only does he pass up on an opportunity, he freaking moves them in with Diana Ross. And it's actually with Diana and Barry, because the reality of the situation of at that time, Diana Ross is she's full on hooked up in a relationship with Berry Gordy. Diana Ross is totally dating Berry Gordy. So at the time that the Jacksons come to Motown, Diana Ross is dating Berry Gordy, like full on dating. Not like just a little thing. They're in a serious relationship. So she's telling Berry Gordy, here's Michael, I want you to bring him into Motown. Then what happens? They get to Motown. Diana says, let's move them to California. They can stay with me. Now, you're going to tell me that Diana Ross, just out of the blue, she's a giant star. And then this is the Jackson family with Joe Jackson. She would have met Joe Jackson. She would have understood how stern of a man he was instantly, right? It's not like she's meeting Catherine and hanging around with Catherine and being like, oh, well, I love Catherine. None of that's occurring. Diana's meeting the Jackson Five. She is meeting them. So she would have known that Joe was the way he was. You're going to tell me that Diana just says, oh, move them into my house. She's a giant star, but for some reason, she just welcomes this family right into her house. But then what happens is, like I said, this is the buildup for Billie Jean. So they move into the house, and what it says here is, California, live with Diana more than you. Okay. She was wonderful, mothering us and making us feel right at home. She really helped take care of us for at least a year and a half while my parents closed up the Gary house and looked for a house we could all live in here in California. So that's what I'm saying. Right there, Motown would have bought them a house in Motown would have bought a house in California. Then they would have said, Jacksons, this is your house. And they would have said, they wouldn't have told him, but they would have just taken that money out of the money that they're making from the Jacksons. There would have been a rent charged for that house. And then that money would have came out of the total. Before they paid the money to the Jacksons, they would have deducted the charge of the rent for the house that is being bought by Motown. That's how they did. That's how Berry Gordy did. That's a very, very smart businessman. That's how he operated. He would not have given up this opportunity to buy a new property in California. This is a perfect opportunity for him to buy a property in California, charge his artists the rent, and have them buy him a new house. This is how he did business. That's exactly what he would have done. But no, they move into Diana Ross's house. Just like I'm saying, follows exactly with the timeline of what I'm saying would be in the situation where Diana Ross is, you gotta remember, when I'm saying Diana Ross gives Michael Jackson away at 14 years old. And Smokey Robinson's the father, and Berry Gordy's the one that orchestrates it. So Berry's the one that actually tells her, we're going to give the kid to my friend Joe Jackson. They're part of the Jackson family, has all these other kids. Michael's going to be able to be raised in that family. And Diana said, that sounds all right. Diana went for that deal. But now you got to understand, Diana and Berry, they have a connection, because Diana did that for Berry as he's helped building Motown, because this happened before Motown. It's all right there in the beginning, which I'm going to show you another part of that here as we go on. But let me go ahead and finish getting through this part here. So it says This was an important period in my life. That's what I'm saying. Of course, this is a massive important period in Michael's life. Just now, I don't have to tell you that this is an important part of Michael's life, because this is what the song Billie Jean is about. And I know that this is what the song Billie Jean is about, because this is right here. He's telling you the whole thing right here, that this is actually what the song Billie Jean is about. This is where it all occurred. So he goes, excuse me. So he goes, this was an important period in my life because Diana, this was an important period in my life because of Diana. Because Diana, right there. Because Diana. It's Diana. It's so much Diana. Okay, Diana loved art and encouraged me to appreciate it too. She took the time to educate me about it. We'd go out almost every day, just the two of us. So now Diana welcomes the whole family. Jackson says, oh, come on, come stay with me. But she doesn't take out the Jackson other kids. No, because if there was any reason for her to be welcoming in the family, and if she wanted to have experience of being like a motherly figure to the Jacksons and help train them and encourage them and all of them, right? There would have been other kids there. She wouldn't have been singling out Michael. That would have not occurred. And then if the fact that she does single out Michael, Joseph instantly would have noticed that she's trying to single out Michael and garner this friendship with him and nurture him in ways. Joseph, being the strong father figure he was, knowing Michael's the key to everything, there's no way that Joseph would have allowed that to happen. Joseph instantly would have said, bitch, knock it off, or we're moving the fuck out of your house. We don't need to stay here. They're the Jacksons. They're under contract. They've got money now. They don't need to be begging to be staying. Oh, thank you for letting me stay in your house. This is the Jackson 5 under contract to Motown now. These guys got money now. They've got money backing them up. They don't need to be begging to stay in somebody's house. That only occurs because she wants it to occur. There's no way that occurs, like I said, because Berry Gordy would have taken that opportunity to buy a property in California anyways. Back then, property was really cheap in Los Angeles too. The investments of what you could have made in property back then, like what it cost compared to the value of property, like talking about going up and up and up and up and up in value. Any property that he bought back then, he could have retired on the profits of what those properties be worth now. It's ridiculous. That's what I'm saying. Do you understand the actual investment opportunity that was given up by Berry Gordy right there? He does not give up those investment opportunities, but he does it because Diana wants that family in her house. She wants Michael in her house, and it's obvious to show that she wants him in his house because Michael's telling you that she frickin' was all motherly, nurturing us, and then she would take Michael out and training him in art. Well, what is she actually doing? She's gaining back all the lost time that she gave him away. She abandoned her kid. So in reality, how would Diana Ross act in real life if she abandoned her kid? Then she goes full stream to get to Motown. She uses Smokey Robinson. She gets into Motown. As soon as she gets into Motown, she starts digging into Berry Gordy, starts seducing him so she can get to be the head of the Supremes, becomes the biggest star. What puts her on that path of determination? Oh, giving up her child at 14 years old sure of hell would have put her on that kind of path with determination. She was not going to say no. Nobody was going to tell her no. She was going all the way. And as soon as she went all the way and got a chance for her, as soon as Michael shows the talent, now that's the thing. When she would have got famous, would she, if Michael doesn't become a star, would she have went back and found him on her own and done something? Probably, but we don't know that story because the actual official story is Michael comes back on his own. It's freaking awesome. That's what I'm saying, how the story develops, and how Michael actually built Motown, and it's so Motown because he comes back on his own. It's like a boomerang. It's like he's meant to be there. And the whole thing and the whole story of the real evidence proves all that. And let me show you how more of what it proves of that. So now, this is the song Shop Around. This is just one little part here. So this is the song that actually builds Motown. This is their first hit. If you look at the Motown plaque, it will say Shop Around. Shop Around was the first, like million selling record that Motown had. It was their first big hit. It's Shop Around, okay? So what I'm saying is the fact that Shop Around ends up being the song that develops Motown, I'm saying the irony of that, it's just layered so thick with Michael Jackson. That's why it boomeranged back on him. And even Berry Gordy, when it come back, he could see it all happening too. And all of them, which I'm going to show you the next part of, that's why Berry Gordy and Smokey are talking the way they do. But so let's look at this here, this line right here. This is the song Shop Around. So it says, before you ask some girl for her hand now, keep your freedom for as long as you can now. Okay, so this is about Smokey telling his mom, and he's asking for her hand now. So he's basically saying, he's telling his mom that he wants to ask a girl to marry him. That's the context of what this song is about. But the mother comes back and she says, before you just ask some girl to marry you, the mom's saying, keep your freedom for as long as you can now. And he says, my mama told me you better shop around. Okay, but now let's look in the context of the reality of what's going on at that time and situation. If this song is written about Smokey Robinson telling his mom that he wants to marry Claudette, would Smokey Robinson's mother speak this way about Claudette? No, because Smokey's actually dating Claudette. Claudette's in the band The Miracles. Do you think that Smokey Robinson is going to disrespect Claudette in this way? Do you think that, hell no, Smokey Robinson would have loved Claudette. And that's the mom. She would have said, that's the wife. She would have loved her. She would have wanted grandkids. She would never have spoken this way about Claudette. Never. That's not possible. It's not possible that Smokey Robinson's mom would have spoken this way about Claudette. But the reality is, well, then what's going on here? If there's no way Smokey's mom spoke this way to Smokey about Claudette, because Smokey marries Claudette. Claudette's in the band. You know, there's no way that happened. But let's take it in the context of Smokey's dating Claudette and Claudette's in the band, but Diana Ross lives right down the street from Smokey Robinson. She's right there. So Smokey Robinson's mother knows who Diana Ross is. She's the little stupid little tramp down the street that's trying to get her son. So what happens if Smokey now tells his mom, hey, I got Diana pregnant. I'm going to ask her to marry me. Now you see the context of where the mom says, hell no, before you ask some little slut, she's like, you're that little slut. That's how the mom would be talking about Diana. That little slut down the street, you can't trust her. He's not in a relationship with her. She's nothing. So that's why that's the context of the meaning of this, how this song develops. The whole song develops because Smokey's mom's mad that Smokey just got Diana Ross pregnant, and Smokey's now telling his mom, should I marry her? Should I marry Diana? He's like, I'm dating Claudette, but now I just got Smokey pregnant. He's a good guy. He's thinking I got to do the right thing. You get someone pregnant, what do you instantly do? Before you go and ask some girl for her hand now. He got her pregnant. Now he's saying, should I ask to marry her? And the mom's saying, no. Before you do that, he's saying, go shop around. And the mom's saying, shop around, that's not the girl. You can't do. The mom says, these girls come a dime a dozen. You got to find one who's going to give you true loving. Because the mom sees, that's how she would talk about Diana Ross. A dime a dozen, got to find one who give you true loving. That girl just got pregnant. She trapped you. That's what the mom's saying. Shop around. She would not speak this way about Claudette. It's impossible. But look at the context of what's going on at the exact time of what I'm saying happened and occurred. Everything is falling right in line. Now, the other main thing about this that you got to understand is that Shop Around becomes the big hit. So then Smokey and Berry now learn that in speaking of their personal details in their life of how it occurred in the situation, that's the song that frickin' becomes the gold hit. So that's where Smokey now learns how to really write hit songs, because he starts saying, I got to get personal. I got to write about my personal life experiences. That's what the people are going to feel, and that's what they're going to understand, because it's real. That's the whole thing of what he did. This is where it all started. That's why I'm saying Michael Jackson's birth basically built Motown. Michael Jackson basically built Motown, the whole thing. Because this without Michael Jackson happening, the song doesn't happen. So if this song doesn't happen, it's still Tamla Records. And then after they do this, they get a little bit more hardcore, right? Let's call it Motown. We're dirtier, we're grungier, because they gave the kid away and then they profited off of that. That sets up the situation for, let's get grungy and call it Motown. The whole name could have developed because of the birth of Michael Jackson. It's all because of Michael. All of it. So then you get to, so this is Shop Around. So then what happens? So because of the Michael situation, the Shop Around gets developed. That teaches Smokey how to write songs in a different way, which leads him to become one of the greatest songwriters of all time. That sets Diana on the path to Motown, which then puts her into Motown, which then sets her on the path where she hooks up with Berry Gordy. Okay, which puts her to the head of the Supremes, which leads to the Supremes being one of the biggest bands ever, which leads to Smokey Robinson and the Miracles being one of the biggest bands ever, him being one of the greatest songwriters, writing all the songs for the other parts of the band. All of that develops right around the part because of the abandonment of the child Michael. Without that happening and occurring, what happens and how does it develop? It's totally different. Everything's completely different. Then, because of that, they gave the child to Joe Jackson, who actually has an insider connection back to Berry Gordy through, there's a big one with the band The Spaniels and Pookie Hudson, that Pookie Hudson was in Joseph Jackson's band, and Pookie Hudson's the guy that's actually credited for creating the doo-wop band style of having a lead singer with a few doo-wop singers in the back. The guy that's actually accredited in history with creating that style of singing is named Pookie Hudson, and he was in a band called the Spaniels. Pookie Hudson, before he was in the Spaniels, he's from Gary, Indiana. He was in a band called the Falcons, which had Joe Jackson as the guitar player. Joe Jackson was in the band with Pookie Hudson, the guy that created the style of doo-wop singing, that basically the whole form of style that Motown's built on. There's connections between these people. That's why he ended up in Joe Jackson's house. Because they know him. He actually had connections to these people. He's more important than what people actually understand. That's why Joe got them back to Motown, put them back to work. He knew exactly how to train them, knew exactly what needed to be done to get them back to Motown as soon as Michael showed the talent. All Joe needed was some talent. Once he had some talent, he knew how to hustle it, but he needed the talent. But then he knew, I got the connection back to Motown. We're going back to Motown. That's what he did. They go right back to Motown, and then they live with Diana Ross, which in that part there of the lyrics, of this part, look at how when he's saying she was so wonderful, and he's always saying she took the time, okay, now watch. Okay, now Billie Jean, but you came and stood right by me just to smell a sweet perfume. This happened much too soon. She called me to her room. See, it's that same wording of this she. It's Diana. He's saying that the she, because it's the way he talks about her. She did this. She did that. It's Diana Ross. That's who Billie Jean actually is. She called me to her room. Michael Jackson. So now think about the context of what I'm saying. That Diana Ross abandoned Michael. All of this stuff has happened. Now Jackson's now returned, and now Michael is reintroduced. They've signed to Motown. Diana Ross moves Michael into her house. This is where she's got the opportunity now to tell Michael the truth. Everything now is calm down. Everybody is established. We can now deal with reality. So what happens? Diana Ross, just a smell of sweet perfume. When that woman comes up to, and it's Diana Ross, would come up to Michael in Diana Ross's house. Think about the power and the position of who she is and where they're actually at. As Michael is stating, as soon as they moved to California, they moved into Diana Ross's house. And that's what I'm saying, that this line right here, I'm actually explaining how this line happens. And so, just a smell of sweet perfume. That's Diana Ross. She's known for smelling really good. She's got the Diana Ross Diamond now, her perfume collection. She's always been known for smelling really good. Just a smell of sweet perfume. And see, that's the other thing, that this person's right there in Michael's face because he can smell her perfume. This is not some imaginary person. It can't be an imaginary person because Michael's talking about smelling the perfume. The person's right there. And not not only is the person there, the person's in charge because she called me to her room. She is in charge and she called me to her room. Now, does that fit exactly perfectly in the context that when Michael Jackson is living in her house, Diana walks over, Michael, can you come with me? He smells that sweet perfume because that's the way he thinks about her when she comes over. Oh, in the first line of the song, she was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene because he knows her as a singing star. But when he's in her presence, she's like a beauty queen from a movie scene with the sweet smell of the perfume. It's so Diana Ross. It's exactly explaining. How would he explain if you want to explain Diana Ross, she was more like a beauty queen from a movie scene and she got this sweet smell of a perfume. And then she called me to her room, and then when you guys understand the context of what the song is about, that Michael's actually the kid in the song, so now I put you in the reality. Michael in reality as a kid, he's living in Diana Ross's house, and when they first move into there, what would she do? She would call me to her room. She's in charge. She's got the perfume. She called me to her room. It's so blatantly obvious of what he's actually talking about. This is Diana Ross, and any of the other people's explanations of Billie Jean and what's going on makes no sense. It doesn't have any understanding. Where I come and I explain everything, and I actually explain the setup and the understanding of all of it. All of it. To the point that I've done all this stuff, right? So now I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm telling you that Smokey's Michael's dad, that Barry set it up. And now this Hitsville making of Motown, this just happened like a year ago, right? This is after my story. I have said all of my story already. But now what are these people coming out saying just exactly like I would say that Smokey's got a kid. Barry knows about it, and they pulled it off, and actually it was how Motown was developed and built. And because of that, that's how you get the arrogance for this guy to be talking like that and saying this.
At the time, Smokey was doing his thing, singing to the women, he created so many babies with his romance and his feeling of that. And a lot of them were his.
Okay, so it's like, see, people just think, oh, that's funny, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, okay, no. Look at what he just said. He says a lot of them are his, but what he's actually saying, that he knows about Smokey Robinson having a child from another woman that people don't know about. He literally confessed to that. He literally confessed that, oh yeah, you people don't know. He's out there making so much of the women loving him so much that, yeah, there's even babies that are his. And the reason he's laughing so much about it, because the baby that's actually his is Michael Jackson. It's not just some babies. It happens to be the kid, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson. And that's how you get Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson joking around. That's why you get Barry joking with Smokey. But Smokey ain't saying nothing because he's the one. He's saying he's the dad. He's not saying nothing. He see him joking quiet. Oh, no, he don't want to talk about that. So you don't, no. He gets away. But Barry being Barry, because Barry's the one and all the stuff, he's cocky. Barry's cocky, and he pulled this off, and inside, you know how hard it is for them to hold inside the fact that they pulled that off, and then everything, like I said, what evolved around it, that the song Shop Around came off of that, then the Diana Ross being developed into the lead singer of the Supremes, that came off of that, then the Jackson 5, that comes off of that. All of that stuff that's revolving around Motown all developed because Diana Ross got pregnant at Smokey Robinson at 14, and they gave their kid away to the Jacksons. All of that happens. It's all because of Michael. So Michael has to deal with all of this stuff. How do you think, and that's what leads him to being a virgin, because he's got real issues. He's got things he's dealing with. And like I said, Diana tells him at 10 years old. That's what the song Billie Jean's about. And that's Michael's the kid in the song. And that's all you have to understand is that Billie Jean is the one that says, she says, I am the one, but the kid is not my son. Michael doesn't say that line. You just got to simply understand that one thing, that Billie Jean says both lines. She says, I'm the one. Diana came and told Michael, you're the one. You're the reason all this happened. She led me to the room. She told him everything, just like the song explains. But she says, But she says, I am the one, but the kid is not my son. Because in public, Michael's officially a Jackson. So Diana has to denounce Michael now again. Officially, she can't admit. That's how the scheme is all pulled off and stuff. Michael's the one has to live with this now. That's why he comes back singing the song about it. That's why on Motown 25, he forces them that he says, I'm going to perform this song. This is the song I'm going to document in history with this amazing performance. This is my masterpiece, my art piece about me telling you the story about my abandonment by my mother. Then it's like, fucking, why am I the one now? It's like, okay, I don't mind that I was the person that found this and did all the discovery now, but now that I'm the person that I'm holding all this information and I'm putting it out here and stuff, I'm trying to get it off of my chest and stuff, but it's not working exactly and shit. I'm still holding it all. I'm getting all this, and not get people yelling at me for doing it, which is another thing. It's I'm being attacked for doing this now. It's a thing that's like, I shouldn't have to be dealing with that. Just like I state to you, any people who are real Michael Jackson fans, this is what Michael had to deal with. This is what led to his pains, and this is what killed him. If anybody ever cared about Michael Jackson, fuck. What the fuck?